got the toilet unplugged. And I'm thinking, that was my anniversary celebration, was unplugging a toilet, all these plans. We're going out to Red Lobster, no kids. This is, so that took it downward, went down real fast there with our celebration. So hopefully we can do it in a couple weeks. We got a rain check, right? We're going to reschedule that, but that's so excited. Yes, we're going to unplugging toilets was not what I had in mind Friday night. But anyway, I had to share this story. My Brooke, we don't let them watch much TV, very rare, but they're all sick and not feeling well. And my wife does the whole spelling the word trick. She said, maybe we should have them do a M-O-V-I-E. Brooke goes, movie? I'm like, my wife and I looked at each other. She's 2. I'm like, she can't spell. She doesn't know any letters. I'm like, how did she get that? We're like, did she say that? She started talking about Winnie the Pooh, which is what she watches. She's like, Winnie the Pooh, Winnie the Pooh. I'm like, I can't get half. When somebody spells something and you're like, the monster, what did they spell? I got to write this down. Half the time somebody spells something to me and I'm like, I can spell. I just getting all the letters. What are they trying? Let me write this down. What you trying? I don't know. She must be a genius or she got lucky. I don't know. But it was like, whoa, movie. So I don't know what happens when we can't get away with that one anymore. But we're doing a different series this week. We're doing a series on how to treat different types of people. Okay, so no more spiritual warfare. How to treat different types of people. And this is so important. As important as shutting your phone off. I thought I did that. This is your warning, everybody. Silence your phone. It's the live stream that's coming through. They're announcing that I'm being live streamed, and that's going off in the live stream. Okay, so turn your phones off. So pastors, they leave churches after a few years, and they find what? The same problems at the next church, right? The problems happen, and it's at the next pastorate, the same problems crop up. People who leave because of disgruntled church members or an enemy will find the same disgruntled member or enemy at the door of the new church. And I was talking to this pastor of a different denomination, and what they do is they cycle the pastors every 5 years. You just automatically have to leave the church and go to a different church. And you know what the reason for that is? After 5 years, he knows the people and the people know him, right? So they don't work through any issues. They don't, it's just, now we know him, and then he gets carted off before there's issues. Well, you're not really solving anybody's issues. You're just avoiding them. And we have to learn how to deal with people. It's so important. We can't run from problems involving human relationships. We can't avoid them, evade them. They must be solved. And that's what a lot of people don't want to do. And a lot of people, when they have issues, they leave a church. And it's sad to see. We don't want to work through it. They come in, think everybody's perfect, and then they realize everybody's not perfect. So just shock. If you're newer, we're not all perfect. Mrs. Winstead is perfect here probably, but none of us else are. So just don't want to burst your bubble. We're not perfect people. We're trying to serve God. We're trying to do right, but we got our flaws, and some of us were saved later in life, and you don't know the background of where they've come from. That's one thing you have to understand is, well, they've been in church for 10 years. Well, maybe they got saved when they were 40, 50 years old. They got a lifetime of baggage and stuff they're trying to overcome, and, well, they're in church. They must be perfect. That's not the way it works. It's life. Life is composed of a series of human relationships. Our success in life depends on how we handle these things in marriage, any type of relationship, kids, work. How do we handle these relationships? We must learn to relate to those who are weaker or stronger than us, our enemies, the fallen, the tempter, and the tormentor. And the church has all sorts of people, okay? So just preparing you for that. Maybe that person there is to test your patience. That person's driving you crazy. Maybe God's got them there to just, help you be a more patient person, more caring. Love people that are hard to love. We must learn how to deal with those people properly. So just some verses I'm going to read. I won't have you. Actually, turn to Ephesians chapter 4. Ephesians chapter 4. I'm going to read Romans 12, then I'll get to Ephesians 4. But Romans 12, verse 10 says, "Be kindly affectioned one to another with brotherly love, in honor preferring one another." Okay, we're taught it's all about us, me first, and it's my rights. What does the Bible say? We need to prefer others first, preferring one another. Ephesians 4, verse 1 says, "Therefore the prisoner of the Lord, beseech ye that ye walk worthy of the vocation wherewith ye are called, with all lowliness and meekness, with long-suffering, forbearing one another in love." Wouldn't that solve most of our problems right there if we were all lowly, meek, long-suffering, forbearing one another in love? Doesn't always work that way, but endeavoring to keep the unity of the Spirit in the bond of peace. Okay, and that unity is a unity of purpose. Okay, it's not a unity of thought. We all think the same way, Hopefully we're pretty close on doctrine, but some denominations use that, cults use that. We got to all think exactly alike, and here's the interpretation of every verse, and you better believe this. You have no choice. You can't think for yourself because we all want to be united. Well, on some of these things, they're all united wrong. Okay, but that's not what it's talking about. Unity of purpose. We're working in the same direction. Ephesians 4, verse 30 says, "And grieve not the Holy Spirit of God, whereby we are sealed unto the day of redemption. Let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and evil speaking be put away from you with all malice. And be ye kind one to another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, even as God, for Christ's sake, has forgiven you." Think about that. What is it saying? Okay, let all bitterness, wrath, and anger. Okay, we have bitterness against people that go to this church. We need to get that taken, be put away from you with all malice. Kind, tender-hearted, forgiving. Okay, even as God has forgiven us. We like to be forgiven. Are we forgiving people like God forgives us? 1 Corinthians 6:7 says, "Now therefore there is utterly a fault among you, because ye go to law one with another. Why do you not rather take wrong? Why do you not rather suffer yourselves to be defrauded?" Okay, what is that saying? We want iron rights. That person did me wrong, and I want everybody to know. Okay, and they're going to hear about it, and I'm going to have restitution, and I'm going to get my day in court. That's not what the attitude we should have, because you go to law with one another, saying don't sue each other. Take the fault, learn from it. It doesn't mean let yourself, be abused and taken advantage. Don't go to. Probably a good idea if you had an issue with somebody, then don't have them, do business with them again. Maybe that's a good, be careful who you do business in the church. Don't think everybody's perfect just because they go to church. You got to be careful. But if you're defrauded, just take it and learn from it. Modern fundamental church has changed. Earlier times, it used to be just everybody come Sunday morning, half would come Sunday night, and just a few remnant would come Wednesday night. Okay, there's a lot less opportunities for irritation, right? Okay, we could wear our best behavior. We can put on a show for an hour or so and impress everybody, and we're all good. We're all happy, right? I'm not picking on Catholic, but that's kind of how it is. We kind of pull in, do our thing, feel good about ourselves, and leave, and we're all good. No, we get along great. Well, yeah, you're not in any situation that can cause issues. You're not working with them. You're not having to deal with them. It's just we come, show up, leave, okay? But that's not what happens in most fundamental churches. Modern fundamental church is different. We have a K through 12 school, okay? You want to get problems in your church, start a school, That's, you want to be, it's a blessing and it's a great tool, but it can cause conflict between people and parents and teachers and kids, and then you got to see that kid the next day. They got to see you. It can cause problems. We have extracurricular activities. We have sports, youth activities, camps, ministries. Many of us work together, and that's a wonderful, wonderful thing. Okay, the more we can do, the more ministry, the more we're going to grow, but it's going to be more problems, right? I worked with Brother Perkowski, he's in the front there, and my Uncle Gary, he's a Sunday school teacher. Pete used to be here. He's taken another church, and George, and we worked 6 days a week together. And then I'd get on the bus after work and do bus visits with Brother Frank, and then I would be on the bus with him for 4 hours, and Mike is not his head. There he is in the back. I better not talk about him. But that's too much of a good thing, right, Brother Frank? 7 days a week, he's my boss. I am under him. I almost rented a house from him, so he would have been my boss in every area of my life, from work to ministry to my house. I mean, it is really too much of a good thing. We're joking. We're like, we are with each other more than we are our wives or anybody else, because we're 6 days a week. Do you think we kind of got on each other's nerves a little bit? Yeah. You think that carried over from work to the ministry? Yeah. Okay, you're going to be around somebody doing construction work. We got on each other's nerves. So it was, it can, the more you're around somebody, the more you're going to learn about them, the more they'll learn about you. You know what buttons to push. They know what buttons to push. I didn't survive 12 years of marriage without figuring out a few things, but, that's part of the process. That's a good thing. We become our own community, a subculture, okay? And that's what needs to happen. We are together not only a few hours Sunday, we're together almost every day of the week. These kids see me, and then, we're involved, they're at school, and then I hop on the bus and driving them to the volleyball game, and 6-7 days a week, they see you, and they're in your Sunday school class. That's great. And I want to stop here a little bit. One of the most powerful things on earth is culture. Okay, you say, what does that mean? Why in these European countries, you ask Weimer, what's the big thing? What's the big sport there? Soccer, right? That is their culture. That is, they are into soccer. Here it's football, basketball, it's different. But that's part of, you want to reach those people. What they did? They got involved in soccer. Culture isn't always a bad thing, but when culture is going the wrong direction, okay, morally, what do? You have to create a subculture. You can't keep going along with culture. It is, I don't want to get political here. I'm thinking of doing a series just to show how far we've come in this country, the standards, the morals, 100, 200 years ago, how we've gotten to where we are. And you've probably heard the analogy of boiling frog, right? You want to boil a frog, what do? If you stick him in boiling water, what will he do? He'll jump out. If you put him in there and you slowly turn it up, he'll slowly what? Cook to death. Okay, and that's really what's happening with our culture. It's not really slow anymore, but we're slowly getting worse and worse. And Christians, I think the world would be shocked with some of the things we do as Christians. They'd be like, wow, that we accept as normal. And I want to go do a series on that down the road just to see how far we've come. I think we'd be more shocked with 100 years ago, their standards. I saw that one picture Pastor showed, and they're going to a baseball game, and everybody at the baseball game has a suit and tie. We can't get suit and ties for everybody in church. And I'm like, the world wore suits and ties to a sporting event, and that just shocked me. I was shocked. And I'm like, can you imagine if those people from 1920 came and put them in a time machine and they saw the standards of the world, went into Walmart and walked around? I mean, lost people would be blown away, and I'm thinking, what is it going to be in another 50, 100 years? You can't even want to think there. But that, culture is shifting, and and culture is going crazy. Can I say that? When you can't call women women and men men, we've lost it. There's medical, they're calling them birthing people. This medical journal called, I can't even say it, women with a certain body part. It's too crass to even say in front of a thing. And then they got ripped on, that's what, by both sides, and then they had to retract it because it didn't make anybody happy. Women, I can't see, it's so despicable. We can't even say mothers. We can't say women. I mean, culture is going crazy. I was reading this morning, I'd read about him, about the rapper who's doing, I can't even say it. He's got Satan shoes. He's doing wicked things in a video with Lucifer that I can't even say. And he's got 666. And I mean, this is mainstream culture. This isn't fringe. This is mainstream. And I'm like, how did we get to where they're, worshiping the devil in these songs, and nobody bats an eye. And I'm like, this is how far culture is. Where is it going? Is it stopping here? Once they get, I'm off track here, but the first time they do it, it shocks you. And then after we see it more and more, we accept it, and it doesn't shock us, right? Think of things that shocked you 20 years ago, and now it's just, you don't even bat an eye, okay? And that's what I'm afraid of. We become where things just, the next thing will shock us, and then after a few years, that'll be nothing. We won't even bat an eye at that. And that's what's happening with culture. That's why it is important. I'm grateful for this church. This church isn't just that we show up Sunday morning, all leave, and everybody feels good, but there's no culture, and we go back to whatever worldly activities we're doing. This is a family, and I appreciate that. It's not good when all your family is here and somebody's getting married and you can't get a babysitter because everybody is related, or they're helping out with the wedding, and we're getting desperate. So if anybody's not going to the wedding and wants to babysit, but that's the way it should be. This church, I am closer to people in this church than some of my immediate family. Okay, that's the way it is. I love them. I absolutely care about them, but I'm just closer. Okay, I count you guys as family. All right, so we need to create a subculture, and that's important. We see each other as we are. We see faults as well as strengths, assets as well as liabilities, and the minus as well as the plus. So understand that, okay? The more you get to know somebody, the more you're around them, that's good. The more you're going to realize people aren't perfect. People have faults. And I want to say this, have grace on people. You think, well, I could do a better job than that. Okay, I thought that. I thought when I was on the bus with Brother Frank, I thought, oh, he doesn't do anything. If I was the captain, I would be running it perfectly. I got it all down. Well, he had to drop out because his son got leukemia, and I'm suddenly in charge. I'm like a deer in the headlights. I'm 18, 19, and I'm trying to run this bus with a bunch of inner city teens, and I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing. This looked easy. He made it look easy, and it was a lot harder than I thought, and I got a new appreciation. So understand that. Don't look and say, well, if I was the preacher, I'd preach better than him, Well, you try. I did song leading, which I still struggle in. I've gotten better, but I'm still, there's a reason I don't do Sunday morning or Sunday night. But I had the kids do it, and they realized it's a lot harder than it looks, and they were scared to death to do it. I had to stop it because they were so scared to do it. They're like, one kid's like, I've been dreading all summer that I'd have to lead songs, just in our little chapel with a few kids. And I'm like, yeah, maybe I shouldn't. I was trying to get them used to speaking and getting up there, but things are a lot harder than you think. So have some grace on people. So some things that we should do is do not express your disappointments. So much can be left unsaid. Never say statements such as, I am disappointed with you, I am disappointed in him, or I wish you had not done that. I got to say this, we have to be careful. I did a leadership class, and they mentioned in there that church is the most leadership intense activity. Did anybody tell me why? It's a volunteer army. A volunteer army, okay? Nobody has to follow you. Nobody is getting paid to follow you, okay? They said businesses, if you're trying to identify a leader, what you need to do is make them work in a charity or a volunteer organization for 6 months and see if anybody follows them. If they can get people to follow that aren't being paid to, one thing, oh, you're the boss, everybody's got to listen to you or they lose their job. That's positional leadership. They have to, and they're doing it because it's amazing what we'll go through for a job and put up with the boss, and then somebody says one thing at church, well, I'm out of here, but we have to realize that. We have to treat people right, okay? Or they're just going to say, I'm not going to do all this work for you. You're mean, and you give me a hard time, and you're critical, and I'm not going to help, I'm the guy that has to call everybody up, and I think everybody sees my number and hangs up, he's just calling me to ask me to do some work, can you do this? And I hate doing that. I hate asking people. I'm building in grounds and I've got to set up, and, if I'm calling, I'm not, men don't just call just to chat, we don't just call, hey, how you doing? I just thinking about you, we don't call, it's to ask something. And if it's me, they're I'm probably have to ask something. I had to change when I wanted to do it all. I hated asking people. My wife's like, you're going to burn out. You can't do all this yourself. It really is impossible. You've got to learn to ask people. So you got to be nice. Hey, can you do this? Thank you. So, I try to get them so they come back and help me again, make sure they're appreciated. So we have to be so careful how we treat people in church. Well, everywhere, but especially in church. There's no law that says we must comment on everything that is said to us or that we must critique everything that is done to us. Okay, be careful speaking your mind all the time. If something has been done that disappointed us, it's been done. There's no undoing it. Now, you may have to say something so it doesn't happen again, but you got to say, hey, maybe next time. You got to show some grace on people. Pastors said this, and I've noticed this, is, you'll do all this work, and then, you leave a little dust, and then the teacher comes in, and, they made my room a mess, and you spent 5 hours the night before working, and they look at the negative, and I realize we do that. Somebody spent all this work, and they didn't take the trash out, and I got to take the trash out. No, what type of terrible people they are. Well, they just spent 10 hours catering an event, cleaning it up, doing all this work, and there's a dirty dish in the sink, and I'm going to gripe about that. We've got to work together. Be careful. Proverbs 10:19 says, in the multitude of words there wanteth not sin, but he that refraineth his lips is wise. Be careful with your criticism, okay? Especially we're in a volunteer army. I know Pastor said that was the hardest thing for him, what? To convert from working in the world to working in church, okay? When you're a foreman, what are you doing? Union, construction. Oh, you're yelling at people. Hey, Rowan, what are you doing? You're cracking the whip. You're on them. It doesn't work here in church. People are doing it for free. They're volunteering their time. If you're mean to them, they're going to say, see you later, I'm going home. That we have to adjust our thinking. Number 2, do not give your opinions if not asked or if they are outside your area of authority. So it's just, these are rules not only for church, but just in life. There's no law that requires you to give an opinion. And it's usually best to keep your opinions to yourselves unless our advice is requested or unless it is within our area of authority and responsibility. What that means is if I'm the Sunday school superintendent and something's going on, it's my area, my authority. I've got to address it and help them out, solve the issue. But if it's not my area, it's somebody else's area, and they're not asking for help, keep your mouth shut. You're only, think of how many times people have come to you and if you want to do it right, you should do it this way. Did that really endear yourself to that person? You're kind of like, get out of here. That's what you're thinking. You can't help somebody that doesn't want help. Okay? You can't help somebody that doesn't want help. If they don't want help, you may have the best intentions. I got to say that. We can have good intentions. I was getting in a debate with a relative, and they kind of went off the rails, and they were, giving me advice that I wasn't asking for and telling me how to do things and what I should do, and I was a bad person if I didn't do them. And I'm like, we can debate the issues, but this is not what we're about. I'm not asking for your advice. We weren't talking about that, and we just kind of got off, and it doesn't go over well. We need to be careful. We got technology. Everybody wants to give their opinion. I can proudly say I have never left an opinion on any YouTube or any Facebook or anything. I don't go on those. I read them sometimes. It's funny, but everybody's got an opinion, right? And everybody wants to say something, and then everybody's going to, people... They get into arguments over Twitter, YouTube videos. I'm like, you got nothing better with your time? I'm the one reading it, so I guess that's not much better. But my wife's like, why are you reading the comments? I'm like, they're funny, Some of them are funny. They're getting in this battle and going back and forth. I'm like, you guys need a life. I need a life too. But they need a life. I proudly say I've never left a comment anywhere. Nobody cares about my opinion. Some of them are pretty clever and pretty funny, but stay out of that. We're in this, everybody's got a voice there, tweet everything they're doing and tell everybody what they should do. And it's like, no, it's not your child. It's not your area. Stay out of it, Everybody's business is everybody else's business. So we got to be careful of that. If someone expresses an opinion with which we agree, it is usually best not to voice that disagreement. Okay? Just say, oh, thanks for the advice. Walk away. Don't say, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Get out of here, Be nice to them. You're going to hurt them. They may have good intentions. They may think, oh, I'm just helping you. I can see you don't know what you're doing, and I was just trying to lend a hand with my, great advice. And, you don't want to blow them out, okay? Take it. Be the bigger person. You're in an area of responsibility, leadership. You can handle it. Just say, thanks. That's good advice. I'll think about that. Okay? An aid to this is division of responsibility, delegation and separation of authority. Okay? This is where we run into a lot of problems, is when nobody's in charge of something. Okay? My wife and I at school, I had my wife in, and we worked pretty good, I have to say. Some other couples says we wouldn't last a day working together. We we did 5 years working together in the school, side by side. We were, every morning, we were with 24 hours a day. We were with each other, and we got along pretty good. We didn't have our differences, but one of the things I realized was she was the teacher, I was the principal, and I was trying to run the classroom on her, and I had to delegate that authority to my wife and give her a position above. I'm like, she's in charge of this classroom. I'm in charge of the school, but you got a problem? Talk to the teacher. So I'm sitting in the classroom with her, helping with the math and helping with the science, but my wife was in charge, okay? And I was, I had to delegate that authority. It was causing issues when I had all the power, and then I wasn't there all the time, and, I had to do that. And at first I thought, I'm not, giving her all this authority over me, but I realized it was for the best. Delegate areas of responsibility. Maybe the husband takes care of the finances, the wife takes care of the home, and it doesn't always have to be like that. I got to say, I'm pretty good with finances. I did it for many years, and then my wife, we started a budget, and she's better at it than I am, okay? I have to admit that. I'm man enough to admit that she now keeps track of the finances, and she's very thorough and very good, and we're a lot better off with her. I wasn't terrible at it. I wasn't bad. She's just better, and I realized that, and that's her area. We discuss things, and she doesn't just, we work together. We have to adjust the budget with all this inflation now. She's like, everything got a lot more expensive, and I'm like, yeah, we got to make some changes. We do it together, but she's better at some things than I am. I leave the cooking and the shopping to her. That's not my area. I have no idea what I'm doing. I am grateful for what she does. I don't know how to cook. I was so glad when I got married and she boiled the hot dog. I'm like, wow, you're amazing. You're such a fine gourmet chef. I just stick it in the microwave. That was my thing. If I ever ate at home, but I'm like, wow, you're so talented. I didn't even think of that. I don't mess with that. She does it all. When responsibilities are divided, there is no opportunity to disagree or argue. He advises young couples, not to go shopping together. She may want one brand and he another brand. Okay, you ever had that? My wife, I gotta say, she's not here, probably listening. She's trying to kill me with health food. I gotta say this. She this dark wheat bread, healthy bread, and she wants me to be healthy, and I'm like, just give me the white. I love the whites. It's so cheap, and it's so nice, and it looks so pretty. It's so white. That stuff just looks so dark and kind of dry, and it's just, So she does it, and I have to eat whatever she buys, and I hate shopping. She was pregnant with the twins, and she couldn't go shopping, and I had to go shopping, which I hated. I realized, when it says rice, well, there's half an aisle of rice. There's every different brand of rice, every different style. I had to walk around with the phone and say, what size, what brand, what type, and it was just a nightmare. Every item I'm walking around on the phone. And, she had to guide me, but I was able to pick some things. Bread, I'm getting this bread. If you want to do it, you can get it yourself. But so I snuck some things in there when I had to do the shopping. She wasn't too happy about. But, delegate that. Areas of responsibility. If 100 objects are brought together, there are 100 opportunities for disagreements. If a couple do go shopping, one should push the cart and the other make all the decisions. Okay? You're the guy and she's cooking and she's buying it, shut up and push the cart and try not to run her over when she stops suddenly in front of you. But let her pick the stuff. What we want to do is give her a budget of, $20 and then get all the expensive food and everything we want, and expect her to stay in with budget, and it doesn't work that way. We need to let her do it, let the other, whichever one cooks, let them have that decision. The same thing should be applied at church. There's no need to appoint 5 people on a flower committee to spend 7 days to decide what flowers to put on the platform. Okay, you have a decorator. You say, you're in charge, you decorate this. If there's an issue, come to the person above you. But things by committee, when everybody's in charge, nobody's in charge. Okay, when you have a committee for everything, it's not wrong to have a committee, but somebody needs to be in charge of the different areas. Okay, delegate responsibility, give authority, divide the decisions-making process. Let the Christian school teacher be the Christian school teacher. Let the youth director be the youth director, bus director, choir director, head usher. We're having a big Thanksgiving banquet coming up. What do? We have somebody that's over it, in charge, and then we have everybody has their area. Okay, one person's in charge of cooking the turkeys, one person's in charge of setting up, one person's in charge of decorating. We don't have a committee for each group. We don't have issues. It goes very, very smoothly. Those things are important. Choose qualified, spiritual, amiable people. Give them each an area of responsibility. This is why people skills are so important. Okay, you may be good at something, and you're lousy and mean to everybody, and I can't wonder why nobody will help you. Just can't get any help. Well, you drove off the other 4 people we gave you that wanted to help. You got to be a little nicer. But amiable people, this is so important. Wise people will seek counsel from others concerning the decisions that must be made. But until the advice is sought, silence is usually the best course of action. Okay? All right? We need to be careful. Is that my area? Should I say something? Is it going to be received? Okay? I should probably just stay out of it. If it's not my area, not my concern, I've had to learn that. We have a play, and it's a big production. And, I asked Mrs. Godano, and she does it. She does a wonderful job. What's my job? Stay out of her way, right? It's not to micromanage her, and she's living this, thinking of it, and writing the music, doing everything, doing all these practices, and I'm going to come along and say, I don't think you should do it this way. I think you need to change this. You think that's going to bode well with that? No. My job is get her what she needs, make her happy, and appreciate what she's doing. You can't get somebody to do it and then micromanage and tell them everything that you want done. Do it yourself if you want that. But we need to be careful, delegate authority. Next one, number 3, is do not demand your area of authority. There are some fields and areas which one might be more qualified than the person to whom the responsibility has been delegated. And be careful. I've noticed this. We're doing the building project. We're trying to get whoever we can to fill in. And then the expert drywaller who wasn't there to help, is critiquing all the drywall. And man, you did a terrible job. And they're like, well, where were you? Why weren't you the painter that does it for a living? You got streaks there. Well, you could have come painted it. The expert comes along and they do that for a living and they're looking at everything critically. And, we've been going to work, and then after work, Micah knows till 10 o'clock, and we're dying, and then somebody's walking along pointing out all the flaws because that's their area. I'm like, okay, maybe you should just keep your mouth shut, or maybe you can be there to help, okay? Be careful of that. Don't not help and then walk around and criticize when people are doing something. I find the most critical people are the people, what? Doing nothing. Yes, doing nothing. Well, I don't like the way he soul wins. Well, when's the last time you went out? Well, I don't go out, but I don't do it wrong like him. Well, you don't do it at all, That's the type of people. Those usually critical people are the ones not doing anything. They may be the expert, but they're not going out and doing it. Some people will give you advice that is unwanted, that you think is not needed. In other words, they're not complying with the suggestions made in the previous point. So people will be rude. People will want to give their opinion. Okay, that's the nature of life. We got to deal with it. When an intrusion is made, do not bristle. Do not remind them that they are out of their bounds. I'm the leader here. Who do you think you are? Don't get upset. Just take it. Listen to them patiently without making rebuttal. Thank them kindly for their advice, and then choose for yourself whether or not to use it. Okay? I'm going to let them know to keep their nose out of my business. They may have a good point. They may not be doing it right. It may be unwanted, but what they're saying may be true. But we want to bristle, get defensive. Oh, God, who are you? I am in charge of this. We get our little kingdoms, right? I'm in charge of this bus. I'm in charge of this Sunday school. I'm in charge of this kingdom. Don't come in and tell me how to do it. This is my area. You stay out. We can get that type of attitude. Just say, oh, that's great. I appreciate your advice. Thanks for coming to me. Thanks for caring. And then you say, hey, you want to help? And you seem to know what you're doing. Get them in. Hey, you want to volunteer? You seem to know so much about this. Why don't you come in and help here? Oh, then you really see if they're really interested in helping or not. But don't be rude, okay? Don't bristle. Don't get defensive. Last thing, simply listen to the one who is out of order. Thank him for his suggestion. Go about the business of making the right decision. You don't need to slam them down, okay? You don't need to say, that's the worst idea. Where were you when we were building this? What, you don't need to be rude. We can still be nice, okay? Just because somebody's rude to us, do we need to be rude back? Now, what does the Bible say? A soft answer turneth away wrath. And they might not be angry. I'm not saying they're angry, but a soft answer. Hey, that's a great idea. Thank you. I'll consider it. You already know it's a bad idea, but don't say that, Consider it for a second, and then you did what you said. But, okay, be careful. So just some things that we need to realize. We have a subculture here, and I'm glad. This isn't just putting my time in and I feel good about myself. We are reaching people. We are serving people. That's going to take effort to put on a Thanksgiving banquet and feed 800 people. How many, Mrs. Keller? 500 people. We've gotten up to more than that, haven't we? 6, 7. In years past, we've, to feed 500 people, it's going to cost a lot. It's going to be a lot of work. It's going to be decorations. It's going to be time. It's going to be effort. There's going to be friction. People are going to have we got to work together in unity. Okay, we got to apply these things. And I appreciate the subculture. I appreciate our kids can go to school here. They can play sports with other Christians. They can go on youth activities. We need to shelter them. This world is terrible. It is. I won't even get. I won't even get into it for sake of time, but it's getting terrible and it's getting worse and worse. We need to have a subculture. We need to be careful. We need to, they need to grow up in church, and I'm glad for a church that has that. But realize there's going to be problems. There's going to be friction. We got to treat people right. Don't express our disappointments. Do not give your opinions if not asked or if they are outside your area of authority. Okay, be aware of that. People don't take that well. Nobody likes that. And do not demand your area of authority. Okay, so just some areas we're going to keep going on how to treat people, but this is good for marriage, any sort of relationship at work. This works. But if you can work in a church, that's amazing. If you can be a leader and lead volunteers, I'm telling you, you won't have any problem in any other area when you're at work and you're in authority or anywhere else, because you can get people to follow. That's the sign of a true leader if you can get people to follow you, volunteers, okay? And we need to realize that. All right, let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we love you. We thank you for this church, dear Lord. We thank you for the culture, the subculture that we have, dear Lord, and we can get away from the world a little bit and have a spiritual, godly atmosphere, dear Lord. And just thank you for all this church does in ministering to people, the buses, the banquets, and all the outreach that we have. And just thank you for all the work that people do to do that. And just pray that you'd bless it and bless this church. Help us to dwell in unity. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen.